Hey guys, I'm Sage Valentine and I'm back here to review another episode of AMC's The Walking Dead. This time it's all about episode number 15 of season 7, entitled Something They Need. So let me know, guys, what you thought of this episode. Leave me some comments below. What do you think is going to happen in the finale? Because personally, at this point, it appears that the show is definitely following the comics, meaning following the Holly storyline. But when it comes to Walking Dead, you never know because they remix things. That is not to say that things won't turn out the way it did in that storyline. But when it comes to the writers, they have the liberty to do whatever the heck it is they want, and they've been doing it. And so far, in my opinion, they're doing a pretty good job. It's a lot of material to work with, and just to let you know, for those of you that have not read the comics, despite the fact they are not following the exact timeline, it appears they're jumping around, and they're jumping back, and they're adding stuff in that they missed. So once you read the comics, you'll completely understand what I'm talking about. Back in season 2, I heard people complaining, people who claimed that they had read the comics, and they were saying the show's not really following the comics, and blah, 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 blah. Well, I finally realized that the writers, though they are following the timeline, or at least trying to follow the timeline, or making an attempt to follow the timeline in the comics, they are omitting certain scenes and then going back and adding those scenes in. So for those of you that have not read the comics, I want you to know that right now, we have not seen Oceanside. We know very little about Oceanside, and I'm getting the feeling that the Oceanside on TV is different from the Oceanside in the comic books. So when that comic book Oceanside is revealed, it may have a completely different name. That's the feeling that I'm getting. But anyway, back to this review. Those Seawalkers, the whole connection of them coming to the water, or coming past the water, or walking on the beach reminds me so much of Fear the Walking Dead season 2. For those of you who watched it, you know what I'm talking about, but just for a quick rundown for those of you who did not watch it, there was an instance where Nick and Madison and the gang all ended up, I think, docking on the beach with this family of people who had prepared themselves for what was to come. And they had a lot of walkers coming up from the water and stuff, so seeing the beach and the water, even when it popped up in the first half of season 7 of The Walking Dead, I could feel the Fear the Walking Dead connection, even from that. Okay, so pretty much I figured Tara was going to have to tell Rick and the gang about Oceanside. I knew she couldn't keep that secret for very long. And Rick is trying to assure her, like, listen, if this goes south, it's not your fault. And Tara keeps saying, this is not going to go south. It's not going to go south. And Rick was like, you don't have to feel bad if it goes bad. And she's just like, it's not. So we're at the hilltop, right? In another scene, Maggie is trying to teach this dude how to garden. She says something about covering this garden bed with a tarp, and then when it starts getting cold, they can do some weeding or something like that. And the guy's confused, but he's like, you know what, I'm just gonna do this. He doesn't want Maggie to leave him sitting there, but he seems to get the hang of what he's supposed to do, because Maggie's basically leaving so that she can go check on a blueberry bush that she saw outside of the gates or the wall of Hilltop. And she says that this blueberry bush will last them at least 40 years. And by 40 years, I mean like the bush is going to blossom and then die. And then they'll be able to replant it and everything. That's just ongoing food for 40 years. So we see Michonne, with Rick's help, climbing up a tree and holding a gun, and she's getting herself ready for what is to come. And I'm sitting here like, okay, I wonder why they have her up this tree. But then later in the episode, I realize why she's there, and she did a pretty good job with the shooting. She's getting better. So we see Aaron and Eric standing together, and they're talking. And Eric pretty much says that the reason why he came along for this mission to Oceanside, and I'm assuming he also means that he wants to join the fight against Negan as well, is because he does not want to stay behind and see Aaron getting hurt all the time, and I guess feeling helpless, like he can't do anything, so he's going to join the fight. Unfortunately, this makes me worried about Eric. I know how the scene goes in the comics. He may not get that story arc, but he might get it, if you get where I'm going, because Walking Dead likes to swing that pendulum back and forth, and the person will die, but they don't necessarily die the way they do in the comics. So, Jesus feels bad about not stopping Rosita and Sasha from basically going on their mission to take out Negan. And Daryl basically tells him, listen, these two ladies can take care of themselves. Rosita's hardcore and Sasha can shoot. You don't need to worry about it. And then I love the transition from that scene to the scene when the door opens and we see David standing in the doorway. And for those of you that read the comics, you know that that is a big part of Holly's story arc. Let me explain. Okay, so David is standing there in the doorway, and I love how the costume team made sure to give David his outfit from the comics. Kudos to the costume people. He had his plaid shirt, and he had the necklaces. The only thing that he needed was a bald head, and he would have been David from the comics. I mean, really David, even though he is David, if you get where I'm going with that. So David reveals that he's the person that gave the guys who grabbed up Sasha the rope to tie her up. Now, this dude is a little too touchy-feely. He tears her shirts, basically straight out of the comics with that scene. And she kind of asked him if he could get her some water, and he's like, well, I'll get you some water, but I'm not really supposed to, so what are you going to do for me so that I'll do that for you? And I'm just like, oh my God. It's bad enough that I was reading something online where they were saying, oh, they're going to have the attempted rape scene, and I was remembering what Robert Kirkman had said at New York Comic Con a couple years ago, like, there'll never be any rape scenes. I was like, please don't let this be like a full-fledged, like, climbing on top of her type scene. I don't know if I could handle it. And it wasn't, because in the comic books, and this is a spoiler, guys, Holly's character has her pants basically pulled down, but I like how the writers threw in the headbutt. That dude deserved it. And unfortunately, David seemed even more turned on by the fact that she headbutted him. Did I say headbutted it? I meant headbutted. And basically, he was just like, well, that whole move is going to make this go even longer. I'm just like, oh, God. And thank goodness that Negan was nearby like he was in the comics. And he was pissed that Sasha was almost raped by David. And Negan's just like, rape is not what we do here. And the next thing you know, David gets a knife right into his throat like this, and it happened just like it did in the comic books, and I'm just like, that was awesome. And just to illustrate what I'm talking about, take a look at this. You see that? Straight out of the comic books. Even down to kind of sort of this part a little bit. Maybe the positioning is a little bit off, but still. And by positioning, I mean like David was like on the left side, and then Sasha and Negan were on the right, but still. Straight out of the comics. So Negan seems to be very calm and nice to Sasha. He doesn't necessarily have murder eyes, or his murder eyes and smile are not as intense as they usually are. So he asked somebody to go and get Sasha a new t-shirt. Now, and on a side note, you will never hear me talk anymore about that whole conversation or intense battle between the Negan is a rapist people and the Negan is not a rapist people, because the whole entire conversation is a headache. It's an honest headache. And to be honest, I like Negan as a character. the wife situation, when I read the comics, didn't seem as intense as it does on the TV show, because the TV show took the liberty of creating backstories for some of the characters and making some of the, I guess, background characters look afraid of him, when in the comics, the women pretty much ran over Negan. I mean, the women used to tell him off. Mostly, I think it was Sherry used to cuss him out. But, Negan would just, like, talk to them in baby talk. But it's just, I guess, the intense portrayal that Jeffrey Dean Morgan does so well gives the impression that the women are frightened of him. And the actresses who are in the background and some who have speaking parts also seem to do a great job of conveying fear. So that is one reason why a lot of people are just like, Negan's a rapist, I don't want him on my screen. But then there are those who can't stand the character at all. And a lot of them have stopped watching the show. And I've heard different, like, things on the internet where people said that they're not going to watch the show again until Negan dies. And I'm just like, you're going to be waiting for a while, because the character is still alive in the comics. And right now, they are shadowing the comics. Maybe they're kind of doing this when the line goes this way, but they're still on that line. And Negan right now is still alive. So back to the review. So, Negan asked Sasha if Rick put her up to this after he, Negan, recognized Sasha's face as being one of the faces he saw while he was walking up and down the lineup in the season finale. And Sasha says, and forgive me for the words that I say, because I don't normally use these words. Sasha says, Rick, you're bitch. And I'm just like, when has Sasha ever used words like that? Like, oh my God. But then I realized, you know what? Sasha's trying to convey that she did this on her own and she's side-eyeing Rick, when in actuality, I think that she understands why he had to do what he had to do. So no, he did not put her up to this at all. So Negan leaves her with the knife that he used to kill David. He says that it's yours now, and she could use it to kill him, but then again, he has the power, being that he's the one standing and holding Lucille, and she's the one on the floor, kind of, not crumpled up, but kind of like hugging her knees, so to speak. So Negan tries to recruit Sasha to become a savior, because he says she has, quote, beach ball size lady nuts, and he wants to harvest the heat off of them. Kudos to the writers for some of these crazy things that they have Negan saying. And on a side note, a lot of people are like, well, why is Negan saying all of these crackpot things? Because in the comic books, Negan curses a lot. He says the F word a lot. And on AMC, at this point in the game, the only show that I heard that had the F word as being a part of it, a part of the vocabulary of the characters, it only happened during the last season of Mad Men, and I think it happened during an episode or two of Breaking Bad. But it's going to be a while before AMC reaches where FX is, because FX right now, for the show Feud, pretty much FX is like, you can say as many Fs as you want, and they're saying it on Atlanta, and they were saying it on American Crime Story, the People versus O.J. Simpson. I mean, AMC's not at that point yet, but I think they will get there soon. We're just going to have to wait it out. But for right now, Negan has to say a lot of crazy things. So, Sasha, Negan tells her that she could help them, or actually him, run the sanctuary. But he says there's no pressure. He's going to give her time to think. Now, on another side note, Eugene did not give in to Negan in the comics. If anything, Eugene was kind of like Sasha a little bit. Maybe not as strong, but Eugene was just like not here for it. So I feel like Sasha at this point in the game, or in the show, has Holly's story, but she also has part of Eugene's story. Because as we saw, Eugene was just like, I'm Negan, that's it, I'm Negan, I'm Negan. But Sasha's just like, I'm not Negan, I don't want to do this. But then there is a part that I'm about to get to in the episode where it seems like she's agreeing to it, but really she's not. So Negan apologizes to Sasha for killing David in front of her, even though he knows that she has seen a lot. And he says that we are not monsters, but in Sasha's eyes, She's probably like, hey, that's pretty hypocritical to say, considering you bashed two dudes' heads in and you just stabbed this dude in the neck, but whatever, dude. Whatever. So, although they added more to Sasha's scene, and they also added the little teeny parts of Eugene's mini little defiance in the comic books, or from the comic books into the scenes, my verdict is that the translation from the comics to the screen so far in terms of Holly's scene is good. All right, so let's get down to when Eugene comes to see Sasha. Now, Eugene feels safe. He likes his position at the sanctuary. A whole bunch of fans are just like, Eugene's a traitor, Eugene's a traitor. Eugene is weak. He admits that he's weak, and he fell right in. But I still, on a side note, believe that Eugene has some sort of plan. I don't think that he just made those pills specifically for those girls, because it was revealed that when he didn't give the pills to the wives, that there was a question mark, like, what the heck is he doing with these pills? Eugene brought Sasha a lantern, a drink, and a pillow, and Eugene reveals to her he came into that room on his own risk, or at his own risk, and Sasha should get on board. In other words, she should join up with the sanctuary. And I guess he's not exactly saying everything that he wants to say, because there's a savior outside and that person is listening into everything he's saying. This is my interpretation of it. He admits that he was weak. He was scared, sitting there, kneeling there in the woods during the scene that happened in the season finale. And he couldn't fight. But being at the sanctuary means he won't have to fight anymore. And if Sasha joins, she won't have to do it as well. She and he will be protected. He says things have changed. We can change with them. We have to. And Sasha basically wants him to go. And all of a sudden we see David turning into a walker. Now, back at the hilltop, that whole scene with Gregory was hilarious, because pretty much Gregory came to talk to Maggie. He was concerned about her being alone out there because she's pregnant. I'm like, yeah, right. He claims that he wants the people of Hilltop to see him and her being a united front. I'm like, right. Gregory. And he apologizes to her, and I'm just like, Maggie says that she'll come by his office so they can talk some more, but right now she's still trying to dig out this blueberry bush. So she asked Gregory to keep a lookout for walkers while she finishes up. Well, it seemed at first like Gregory was about to stab her. Then all of a sudden these walkers appeared. Maggie was about ready to just ante up and go after this walker, but Gregory was like, no, I can do this. He couldn't even handle that walker. He chickened out. Maggie battled with it. And then all of a sudden, Gregory almost gets eaten because he kind of gets attacked by this other walker. And I'm just like, he's a wimp. He's all talk, all bark, and no bite. And pretty much, once Maggie takes out not only her walker, but his walker, we see Gregory, like, kind of humped over, looking like he's about to throw up. And some of his men come back, and they look at him like, you couldn't kill a walker? Like, what the hell's wrong with you? And Maggie's like, oh, he's learning. It's okay. It's his first time killing a walker. And the guys are like, that's not what he told us. Why am I not surprised? So we see Tara. She's hiding in the cottage inside of Cindy's room. And she kind of takes Natalia, the leader of Oceanside, hostage. And then she sees Cindy, and she kind of tries to take Cindy kind of hostage along with Natalia. So Tara basically tells both of them that she didn't have a choice. She had to tell Rick and the crew because they need their guns. And she tells them what she learned when she came back to Alexandria about what happened to Glenn and Abraham, how she witnessed Spencer die and Olivia die, and then the brutality of the saviors, and the way they just come bum rushing themselves into Alexandria and take stuff and burn up mattresses, blah, 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 blah. She didn't say it in so many words, but she pretty much was referring to all of that with the mattress part. Everything else she kind of said. So Tara tells Natalia and Cindy that her group, Team Family, is going to fight the Saviors. And she said, if we fight together, the Oceanside and Team Family, along with obviously the Hilltop and the Kingdom and the Garbage Pail people, then it's going to be a really big army. But Natalia doesn't want to help at all. She said, if you take our guns away from us, you might as well kill us all. And I thought about that because I was looking at some stuff online. So I'm always looking at social media to see what other people are thinking in regards to the episode, because a lot of times I'm like, am I out on left field or something? And when I hear what people are saying, I'm like, okay, I get what you guys are talking about. I'm like, I was right in my interpretation. And sometimes people do that to me when I'm on Twitter as well. I'm at Sage Valentine, for those of you that don't know, on Twitter. So some people were online and they were talking about how effed up it was that Rick and the gang were taking the guns from the women. And I was just like, what the heck do they mean? And then I thought about it. Yeah, I understand Rick and the gang need the guns, but it is kind of jacked up just a little bit. So all of a sudden there's these explosions. The women are running. Michonne stops the two chicks that almost killed Tara from running, because they were running straight to the arsenal. And then all of a sudden those two chicks get ambushed by, if I remember correctly, it was Carl. So to prove that what she's saying is the truth, Tara allows herself to become overpowered by Sydney and her grandmother Natalia, and she hands over her gun, and it's revealed that there are no bullets in the gun, because like Tara has been repeating over and over again, we're not here to hurt you. Rick pretty much tells the women, like, you guys have what we need guns, we're going to take your guns. And he tells Natanya when she comes out with a gun to Tara's head that we are taking the guns. And Rick warns her to let go of Tara or we'll kill you. And Natanya seems like she's ready to die to protect Oceanside. But she does not want them to take the guns, and she becomes very angry with the Oceanside ladies because they all want to or are considering joining up in the fight. So all of a sudden these walkers appear because of all the explosions and the loud sounds and the shooting and everything. And pretty much Sydney ends up knocking out her grandmother, Natanya. It was the only way to talk some sense into her, because she was about 2 steps away from pulling the trigger and killing poor Tara. So all of a sudden the kelp walkers that were walking on the beach, they come, and Rick and the Oceanside gang and the rest of Rick's crew and Sydney and Michonne, everybody is fighting these walkers, either shooting or stabbing or whatever. And it seems like the Oceanside group and Team Family all work well together. So in the end, Natanya pretty much tells Rick and the gang to take your damn guns and go, but Oceanside is not fighting this fight with you. But Sydney reveals later in the scene, maybe a couple of seconds later, that some of the women want to join the fight, and Sydney wants to go with Tara and the crew. So we jump to another scene where Negan comes back to the little cell where Dwight was kept at one point, well, 2 times. Daryl was kept, and now Sasha is. He comes in, he stands there, and then he just smiles, that lovely smile that Jeffrey Dean Morgan does the best. And Sasha tells him, you win, and Negan's like, no, you win. But he takes his knife back because he's no fool, and he knows, obviously, that Sasha's going to try to use that knife on him. And he tells Sasha, listen, I got to keep you locked up because we're cool, but we have to take this slow. We have to take baby steps. This isn't personal. You would do the same thing to me if I was in this situation now. Another nod to the comics, but you'll see how it all plays out. Negan talks about a little birdie that told him that Rick and the crew are up to no good. Now, you're probably wondering, who is this little birdie? It's Gregory. Honestly, I believe it has always been Gregory since the day Rick and the crew met him, because Gregory is trying to look good to Negan and the Saviors. And I think I was in one of the Facebook groups, and somebody was like, why would Gregory talk to Negan? I don't think Gregory ever talked to Negan. I think that person missed the part where Jesus basically said that Gregory was the only person who spoke to Negan from Hilltop, because I don't even think Ezekiel had even met Negan. I think Ezekiel always dealt with Gavin. I think Gregory was the only one who dealt with Negan, who had seen Negan. So Negan tells Sasha that he's going to get her some stuff to make her more comfortable, to see what the comforts are going to be provided for her at the sanctuary once Negan realizes or can see that she's not going to keep trying to kill him. Even if she had fully been on board, she still would have tried to kill him. She'd be a fool not to. And he tells her tomorrow is a big day. So Gregory pours himself a drink. He starts looking at that map that Simon gave him. And he asks Cal to drive him somewhere. And that somewhere is the sanctuary, which is why I truly believe that I was right when I said this last season, that Gregory is the one telling on Rick and the crew. Even though there are some people online saying that Enid is some sort of spy, I don't believe that. I think if anything, Enid is the manifestation of little Sophia. Because in the comics, Sophia's still alive, but she's now a teenager. So Enid has taken on that storyline, so to speak. Eugene seems happy when he learns that Sasha has decided to take the deal that Negan has presented her, but when he talks to her through the door, it appears like Sasha is just overcome with emotions. She tells him that she can't do it, she won't do it, and she second guesses what she said to Negan. She feels trapped, and she knew taking on this whole mission with Rosita would result in her death, of everything being over, and she's ready for it to be over. She just wants to die so she won't hurt Rick and the gang. And begs Eugene to bring her something, a gun, a knife, a piece of glass, so that she can end her life. She refuses to turn on the group, and she doesn't want Negan to use her to turn on the group. Now, when we see the next shot of Sasha, it's clear that she's manipulating him. Hell, she's also manipulating Negan as well. She's just going through the motions. So, when we see Rick and the gang, they are carrying out the guns and the bullets. They're leaving the women pretty much defenseless. Gabriel asked, do we have to do this? And Rick was like, yeah, we definitely do. Tara tells the women that they will bring them back when this is all over, but God knows what will happen in between that time. Unless, of course, all of the women join up in this fight. The ones that are left behind, God help them. So Sydney tells Tara that she wants to go with the group to Alexandria. And she thanks Tara for what she's doing, because when we met Sydney in the first half of this season, it was like towards the end, I think it was either like episode 7 or episode 6, one of the two, Sydney seemed like she wanted to fight. She wanted to fight the Savior. She just wanted to be a part of the fighting, and her grandmother doesn't want that, especially after everything that happened to Sydney's mother and father and everybody else's mothers and fathers from Oceanside. That's why Natalia feels the way she feels. Now, Tara looks to Rick and says, you know, you were right. I don't have to feel bad about this situation. Now, Eugene tells Sasha that he granted her request, and he brought her his poison pills. You know, the ones that he made for the wives, as he explains in the scene. And then he realized that the wives were trying to play him. But I also think that he made those pills also to be a part of his plan that he has to kill Negan. I don't think that Eugene is just falling in line. I think he truly, truly has a plan. And he tells Sasha, you know, I owe you. We were friends. You've done so much for me. He doesn't want her to go, but he realizes that she's already gone. Now, do I think that Sasha in episode 16 is going to take those pills and kill herself? I hope not. But you never know when it comes to this storyline. But to me personally, it doesn't look like she is. It looks like she is going to try to do something crazy before she dies. She's not going to go out without a fight. Now the gang heads back to Alexandria. It's late. Rosita opens up the gate, and the gang starts asking about Sasha, and Rosita has this look on her face. She won't say anything, but Rosita shows them Dwight sitting in that cell that Morgan made, and Daryl immediately tries to go after him. I'm just like, somebody grab Daryl, because Daryl's about to hurt him. Daryl doesn't need to be doing that. Dwight says that he wants to help the group, and Ricka's like, okay. And then he tells him basically to kneel down. Now, I cannot wait to see the season finale because I want to see that scene play out because it's a very good scene. Very, very good one. And on a side note, in the comic books, memory serves, the Saviors attacked Alexandria, and then they took Dwight prisoner, and then they let Dwight go. And then later on, it's revealed that Dwight wants to help them take down Negan. Now, it's up to you, the viewers, fellow viewers, to figure out should the group trust him or not, but I honestly think that the group should trust him. I think that Sherry running away changed Dwight. Also, there was that dude that he had to kill, the one that ran off from the sanctuary, and the guy was saying so much stuff about how, like, life used to be a certain way before Negan came, and now it is what it is, and you can kill me, I don't want to go back, my wife is dead, I can't do this. On top of the fact that, like, for the most part during that particular episode, you could tell Dwight was having feelings. And I don't believe that he went along with the whole situation of burning Dr. Carson, but Dr. Carson was basically a casualty of war, unfortunately. And that dude was already shady anyway because pretty much, if you go back and watch the episodes, he was pretty much complicit in everything that was happening, so it is what it is, but I can't wait to watch the season finale because I'm so super duper excited. And you're probably saying, Sage, where'd you get this awesome brown hat? Because I really like this hat. It came directly from Expanse, Sci-Fi's Expanse, and they sent this to me as a fan of Detective Joe Miller because he's such a great character, and spoiler alert, unfortunately, he died. So they sent a few fans some memorabilia, and I got the hat, so I love this hat. I think it looks awesome on me. And anyway, guys, I will be back to do another review of Walking Dead, obviously, and I do have to do a review of 24 Legacy, but you all take care. I'm so glad I did this. I know it's like 11:32 on a Friday, but I just finished watching the episode, so I was like, let me do this review and get it all done. But until next time, you all take care. I love you guys. Bye, guys. I can't wait for the finale. Bye.